I told you we'd come back to discuss the different options for the function we created. The max tokens and temperature arguments are things we can change in order to get a different outcome from our model. Max tokens refers to the number of tokens we want the model to return. If we set this to a higher number, we'll get back a longer output. Let's experiment with some different values for these arguments. We'll take our generate text function from above, and instead of setting the max tokens within the function itself, we can create it as one of the arguments for our function. We can then create our generated text, but instead of just providing the prompt to our generate text function, we'll provide the prompt and the number of max tokens. Here we'll set it to 5. We've been given once upon a time, this spring, every. Let's now change this to a larger number and see if we can get a full sentence. We'll change the number of max tokens to 20 and print out our generated text. So you can see here the output that's been given is much longer. And you can play around with the number of max tokens depending on what your use case is. You can even just make it a really large number to allow the model to give whatever output that it feels would be relevant. Let's now look at the temperature argument. The temperature controls the randomness of the response, with 0 being less random and 1 being most random. So let's adapt our function, again taking the temperature out of being hard-coded within the function itself, instead an argument we can pass to our function. We'll then generate our text, so we'll give it the prompt, the max number of tokens as 20, and the temperature of 0. Let's compare this to where we give it the same prompt, the same number of max tokens, and a temperature of 1. So you can see with a temperature of 0, the response is quite kind of simple, it's not particularly random, it makes sense. Where the temperature is 1, it will be more random, but because we've limited the number of tokens, it's quite hard to see that. So let's up our number of max tokens to 50. So when we allow the max tokens as 50 and the temperature of 0, we get the following response. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who was born with very special gift. She could see things that others could not. She could see the future and she could see the past. She could see the present and she could see the future. Let's compare this now to where the max tokens is again 50 and the temperature is 1. Here we get the response, once upon a time, I was told everything. I'm guessing this might be in reference to how it's always been a strange position to be in, because he doesn't really give much back when anyone does anything for him, but we don't get a perfect view of those. So you can see here the response is a little bit more random, it doesn't make as much sense, it's not quite as clear. So this temperature argument is really interesting to play around with and see what kind of different responses you can get. There are other customization options available, so do check out the documentation. You can also experiment with these on the OpenAI API Playground, where you can test out different models and settings.